Alrighty, let's go look at election polling. It's October 27th, 2024. Trump is now ahead on the Real Clear Politics average for popular vote. He has been for a few days now. The polling is still kind of some polls for Harris, some for Trump. But yeah, Biden was up 7% at this point in the polls. Hillary was up 5.6. It's estimated that Harris will need about 2.5 national vote lead to actually have a chance in the battleground states. That's an estimate, assuming similar performance to Biden. Here's the top battlegrounds Real Clear Politics average. Trump is now winning in every state. Here's a picture that has each of them all in one picture, so you don't need to actually go through and just click each picture, and I don't want to sit there and waste your time. The most interesting ones you should look at: Georgia's just all Trump and one tie. Pennsylvania's very heavily Trump, but there's a few for her. Michigan is really just two outliers, Bloomberg and Quinnipiac. Nobody respects them. Nevada and Wisconsin are really iffy. There's only one Harris tie in Wisconsin. One Harris lead, but there's a lot of ties. So Wisconsin's still a little iffy. Nevada, that one's really the only one that's swinging back and forth for polling. The Wall Street Journal one's kind of pulling that one up there, but maybe Emerson or Ensor will get a new polling out that will show. But Bloomberg showing Harris +1's pretty bad for Harris. That's a pretty bad poll. And Arizona, pretty good for Trump. Just only the oldest Wall Street Journal one showing for Harris. Now let's go look at different things. Let's go refresh this. Betting odds for Trump, roughly 65% polymarket and 35% polymarket for Harris. Here's the election map. Pennsylvania is at 60% estimated, 52% Michigan, 57% Wisconsin. Nevada's skyrocketed with the early vote. Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina are all really high Trump now as well. Let's go look at the forecast. The Economist is now saying Trump has a 55% chance to win. The Hill is saying Donald Trump has a 53% chance to win. And now we have JHK forecast with Trump 52% to win. 538, Trump is at 54% to win. There's also Nate Silvers. He's at Trump 53 right now. He hasn't updated today. But a little interesting poll right here. New Hampshire is only +3 Harris, and that's with 3 undecided and a margin of error of 3.2. So New Hampshire is actually in play according to the Emerson poll. There's also a Washington Post poll saying it's not even close to in play, but we can just ignore that because Washington Post is completely garbage. Here's the current map right here, and it's possibility Trump could actually win New Hampshire or Virginia. Both of those are not exactly favored for Trump, but they are actually in play. Other states that people have speculated could be in play are New Mexico and Minnesota. Those are a lot less likely than Virginia and New Hampshire, but they are on the possibilities. There's also the Nebraska district right there is a possibility for Trump to win that. And that one's also an unlikely one, like the Nebraska district too. People don't expect it, but it is a possibility. Now, early voting. You go and look. This Georgia one is extrapolated with a model. It's not actually accurate. They don't actually report their things. So Target Smart's, using various models to actually predict this. But Republicans are winning early votes in North Carolina now. They gained the lead a few days ago. They're also winning in early votes in Arizona and in Nevada. Early voting very heavily steers towards Democrats, especially when they're either dead or non-citizens compared to election day turnout. States like New Hampshire, there's a shit ton of undecideds, so, or not undecided, but third party. New Hampshire's a live free or die state. There's a lot of independence there. One thing I will notice is Pennsylvania looks really bad at first glance for Republican, but this is a normal ratio. Democrats usually perform like Republicans more than 2-1 in early voting, and that is because when you go to vote type, it is only mail-in. There's no in-person daily early voting. Republicans do not like to do mail-in ballots as much as Democrats anymore, especially during COVID when they started, doing a lot of shenanigans with how they would verify those votes. People would rather do the vote in person if they're Republican, and Democrats don't really care how they do them. So the states that have in-person daily voting or early voting, you go and look, and Arizona is also almost all mail-in, but they do have some in-person because mail-in starts earlier, and the early voting in Arizona is kind of new and more restricted, but the Republicans are still doing okay there. Pennsylvania's just always had a very strong early mail-in voting system. Lots of people in Philly that don't exist have been voting there for decades. I wouldn't be surprised if Benjamin Franklin's voting for Harris. But it is looking really bad for Democrats. Their early vote turnout overall is only plus 2%. And Republicans have a gigantic lead in the actual election day voting. So, a lot of these states that are expected to be blue might be toss-ups. It is possible Trump wins New Mexico. It's possible Trump wins Virginia. It's possible Trump wins New Hampshire. We will find out. One thing about Virginia, if you go and look, what's the vote type? And a lot of people are starting to vote in person now there. So Democrats do have a little bit of an edge there, quite a big lead, less than previous years. But even if Trump doesn't win Virginia, if he gets closer to it, it will then make Virginia considered a swing state in future elections. Same thing with New Hampshire. Back in 2016, people did not consider Michigan or Wisconsin to be swing states. They thought those were just solid Dem. They were part of the blue wall, and Trump won them both. Very funny, if you go to the 538 forecast, Wisconsin was considered like 90-something% for Hillary because of some of those Washington Post polls with plus 16 Hillary in Wisconsin, which then she lost. So Kamala is basically just over. Her campaign's cooked. Trump's doing fantastic. Anybody who actually thinks that all the polling is just underestimating Harris supporters, if you think that, go put a bet on her. She's getting 35% Polymarket. She's getting 37% Kalshi. You could also go Polymarket and bet on different states. If you think she's super likely to win, say, Nevada or Georgia or North Carolina, you could go put on one of those. Get 4-to-1 return on a Georgia bet. 3-to-1 in Nevada. So go put your money where your mouth is. Republicans are also in the House. If you go and look at the last week, they've regained the edge. So back around, July, they were saying the Republicans, they were just doing so bad. They were down to 35% when a lot of the polling was bad. But now, as we get 3 weeks in the election and closer, polls start to come out that are a bit more realistic. And then people realize, those old polls are complete bullshit. Now Republicans just gained the lead. As of October 17th, that was the first day that they gained the lead, it looks like. Yeah, they were still losing on the 16th. They gained the lead on the 17th, and now they've been winning for about 10 days now. And if you go and look at the Polymarket, the most likely scenario now, people are saying, is a complete sweep for Republicans to win all of the House. The House, the Senate, and the presidency. And you can go just look at each of these. Trump winning every swing state, though, is only at 34. A lot of people think that there's a good chance that she wins at least one of those. People are also expecting a record turnout in 2024. I'm not sure we're going to get that record turnout. It's possible. There's also everybody talk about Trump getting the black voters. This Kamala one, very interesting. So Kamala, her campaign actually reached out to Joe Rogan a while ago. Joe did not want to have her on there with a lot of their criteria they were going to have, and then they just said that there's a scheduling conflict and they can no longer go on Joe Rogan. There's still some people who think that her campaign might flip on that decision and that she might go on Joe Rogan, but the betting odds are saying she's not going to go this. And, Joe Rogan actually put a clip out recently where he said that, she didn't actually say yes and she didn't say no, but her campaign manager said that there was a scheduling conflict. So that's just a nice way of saying we don't trust her to do a non-telepromptered interview unless we have editorial rights to, edit how it's going to play out. And Joe Rogan would not want to agree to that. So, yeah, Kamala's doing pretty bad. And Monday, we should get more polls that are going to push this very heavily one way. And I'm thinking that even 538 is going to have Trump at 60% Monday.